Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are doing the Pittsburgh Steelers 3-round mock draft. But before we get into that, we have a fun announcement. We have partnered with BetUS, so if you like putting a couple bucks down on the game that you are watching, be sure to click that link down below. They have a fun promotion going on right now for all first-time players. There's a 125% match for the first 3 deposits. So click that link down below. Masters is coming up. We have some fun horse racing that's coming up here over the next couple months with the Kentucky Derby and the Triple Crown Series. So be sure to click that link below and sign up. While you're at it, be sure to like, subscribe, and also ring the bell to get notified whenever we create new videos. Trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the draft. We're only a couple hundred away, so any help is greatly appreciated. Ryan, let's pull this up here. Let's look quickly at what the Steelers have done so far in the offseason. These are the most notable of the trades or re-signings or departures. So I think off the bat, all the quarterbacks are gone, and so it's going to be a completely new quarterback room for Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'll say this is going to be fascinating to watch. This is not it's not Russell Wilson's job.
Oh no!
I think this is a very serious quarterback battle because I think one of the things that was kind of dumb on his part is like he just took $1.5 million thinking like he's got the job. If they like Justin Fields, like they'll just cut Wilson, or you hang on to him just because it is only $1.5 million. But I think he put himself up for a very vulnerable spot. And if he's not playing, he's going to ask to be traded. I would think.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I will say it reminds me a little bit of like Cam Newton with the Patriots when Mac Jones was there and they came in and it's like, all right, well, if Mac Jones is starting, we're not keeping Cam Newton around because he's too big of a polarizing character to be in that locker room with somebody else as the starter. And it's like the Patriots ended up releasing him. And that's where I think if Justin Fields does win this job out, I think Russell Wilson kind of suffers from the same fate. I don't think he really had many suitors this offseason. I don't think the Patriots or the Raiders or Minnesota, I think, would be really interested in a guy like Russell Wilson. Especially all those guys, they have top 12. All those teams have top 12 picks. They can go and get a J.J. McCarthy, a Drake May, or a Jaden Daniels. And so that's where I think these teams are. Like he kind of pigeonholed himself. And I laugh, you and I were texting each other in the midst of free agency where it's like the Russell Wilson options are quickly dwindling. It's like same with Justin Fields. And so that to me, I think is just Chicago kind of pigeonholed themselves by waiting so long. And Russell Wilson, I think he's just a little too polarizing for teams to really make a big investment into him at the moment.
There's only been positive reports from former teammates Russell Wilson. So I think it is possible that if it's like, hey, if it's Justin Fields' job, like they'll just move on, and then they can go sign any random backup quarterback. They can go and draft like a rookie quarterback here, like go get a guy like Spencer Rattler, so to say. So with some of the additional picks that they have, which we'll get into here in a second. But we talk all about that. Probably, I would say their biggest signing overall was Patrick Queen. I think getting Patrick Queen from Baltimore has probably gone down as one of the more underrated moves, I would say, in the entire free agency so far. Only just because it was such a crazy free agency of all these different like quarterbacks or star running backs like moving spots or receivers. Patrick Queen's one of the best defensive players in the league, and now you're going to already one of the best defenses in the league. Like any defense with TJ Watt on is going to be one of the top ones. So you put him in there. This is going to be absolutely crazy. It's going to make it even more AFC North football because now you already have these rivalries of teams that don't like each other. And then now you have Patrick Queen and the style of play that he plays on the opposite side of TJ Watt going up against these guys. It's going to be phenomenal football this year going on in the AFC North.
Yeah, that to me, I think, especially to get a guy like that away from your division rival in the Baltimore Ravens, I think is a big plus. They did make some other small additions here. Van Jefferson, Cordell Patterson, both from Atlanta. Deshaun Elliott and Miles Killebrew as well as Dante Jackson there. And then they did lose Deontay Johnson, Chukwuma Okorafor, Kenny Pickett, Armand Watts, and Mason Rudolph. Again, all those guys I think were kind of already replaced throughout free agency. And then I think so you got back to where you were. And then I'm actually a little excited about this quarterback room because I think both of those guys are going to clearly be competing for the starting job. Whereas I feel like in a lot of rooms you have your clear starter, clear backup, and I think that could end up working out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You get the best of either of those guys. So,
oh yeah, because it's going to be game day every single day.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be playoffs in that mentality. So, let's move on now to their draft. So, as you can see here, they're not picking at 20. That's because we did include trades in our mock draft, and we actually had them trade with the Cardinals. Cardinals got picked 20, Steelers got picked 27, and picked 90. So they will actually have an additional pick. And part of the reasons why we did that, JPJ was off the board, Jackson Powers-Johnson. And one of the things that we feel is probably one of the biggest pieces that they need to improve on is going to be the interior offensive line. So they get a trade back, get a little more draft capital. And then Zach Frazier is actually still there for them at 27. So we thought, let's not even push it. They get Zach Frazier here. I think another potential option, I know they got Broderick Jones last year. They could potentially go offensive tackle just because they haven't re-signed anybody on the offensive line so far. And they did lose Chakuma
Okorafor. He played 7 games for them last year at right tackle, but then he was benched for speaking out against the offensive coordinator, which I think he did rightfully so, considering how bad that.
I think it got him a lot of fans. I think it got him a lot of fans in Pittsburgh. Speaking out about that. So, but in general, though, Ryan, I want to know your thoughts. I think in general, this pick is offensive line.
Yeah, I think so. Their offensive line actually was better on paper than I thought it would be. I believe they actually were like 6th lowest in sacks allowed. But with that being said, I still think getting this interior offensive line stronger. I do think they want to be a run first team with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, and get those guys heavily involved. They want to be running the ball 30, 35 times a game between both of those guys. So all in all, I like the Zach Frazier pick here. I think he can play guard or center, and he's a day one starter for you right away. And he plays downhill. He's a really solid player here. Doesn't get moved around very much in pass protection. So I just think a really solid player here. So next up here at pick 51, we do have them investing in the receiver room with Troy Franklin, the wide receiver from Oregon. I think he's a good complement to what they have already with George Pickens and then the Van Jefferson and Cordell Patterson. To me, he's going to be the speed, deep threat kind of down the sideline that you're going to want. You have your traditional X receiver in George Pickens who's going to get the number one corner every single week. And then I think you have a guy in Troy Franklin that can be a high-end Z receiver when he's on. If you watched our top 100 video, you will know that I'm not the highest on Troy Franklin, but I think part of that is also just Oregon's offense is unique in and of its own, and it is kind of hard to evaluate talent in that offense, whether it's quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. It's just a unique system that doesn't translate to the NFL, and so you get a guy like Troy Franklin. He didn't test well athletically at the combine, but you just hope that his athleticism on tape is what really carries over to the NFL and not his numbers.
Yeah, and I can warn you now, Steelers fans, as a Falcons fan, the Arthur Smith offense is also very unique. So I think Troy Franklin might fit in perfectly. But in general, he has been a guy that has come down a little bit more throughout this draft, throughout the offseason so far. But I still think that he's going to provide a lot of good value. And with now moving on from Deontay Johnson, I know you add Van Jefferson and Cordell Patterson. Also, then, one guy we didn't include as well, Quez Watkins, just signed as well. But I still think that you're going to need to address that receiver room because all those guys are not going to be game changers. And so I think you're going to need to address and get some youth, especially the Cordell Patterson. He's like 30-something years old. Like he's more of a
and he has the abuse of a running back at this point.
Yeah, he's going to be more of a kick return specialist now, especially with the new unique rules. So, let's move on though now to their next pick. So they have the 84th pick overall, and so this is going to be one we have them dressing Caleb Bullock here as well. I think an area that is sneaky underrated in terms of need is just going to be the secondary. I still think they need to keep bolstering up the secondary just a little bit more. So we feel like going with Kalen Bullock would be a good option here as well. They could also go Max Melton at the cornerback position. They did go with Joey Porter Jr. last year, so they wanted to try and get him some help and just kind of keep building up that way. But I ended up going with Kalen Bullock here with the 84th overall pick.
Yeah, and that to me, I think one of the problems with this team last year was just that they were giving up too many big plays. And I know they have a really good pass rush, but outside of that, I think that secondary really lacked on the back end. And you have a Joey Porter Jr. who likes to be an aggressive corner. So going and getting a guy like Kalen Bullock who can play on the backside of that, I think would be a really good fit here as well. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to pick 90. This is the pick that they traded for. And we're going to go with a linebacker. This is going to be Maurice Liufau. Just, again, another versatile linebacker to kind of throw in that rotation. I think putting him next to Patrick Queen would be a good fit. It kind of, obviously, he's not going to be Roquan Smith because Roquan Smith was the top 8 pick. But he can kind of, I think, play that role next to him and be that also uber athletic linebacker. So just a good rotational guy. He probably could come down and play a little bit of outside linebacker. I think he has the size for it in like true passing situations. So all in all, I think this is just good value here for a guy like Maurice Liufau.
Yeah. Like no, we got Patrick Queen, but I think getting a more Patrick Queen's to me almost is like a little bit more that I think that modern day edge rusher, so to say. It's like he's an outside linebacker. So I think you go get a guy like Maurice Liufau, kind of be more that traditional inside linebacker and provide some good depth.
Yeah. And then lastly here, getting DJ James. I think he's just good value. He played well at Auburn. He's a little undersized, so he's probably going to be your nickel. But again, he's sticky in coverage and plays with a good bit of like tenacity that I think Mike Tomlin and the Steelers would like. And he's going to be a rotational guy. Like I said, he like in at the nickel, but has the skills and to play at the NFL.
Yeah. The only other options here I think that could be interesting is they didn't address the defensive line at all. So like a guy like maybe Mo Kamara out of Colorado State, I think would be a good guy here. Put him across from TJ Watt. He was just an animal at Colorado State. I think had a lot of good games this year. So in general, though, with the trade back, 5 top 100 picks, I think just like a lot of these teams in the AFC North, there's the Steelers. You can make an argument. Have the most holes, I think, of the teams in the AFC North. However, I think they probably had the best coach, he puts them in successful situations every single year. Hasn't had a losing record during his entire time there. And then when you have guys like TJ Watt on the defensive side of the ball, it's so hard to score against them because he brings so much attention. So it's going to be very interesting. I think that the Steelers are making the right moves. I think they've finally got a good quarterback room, and so the Kenny Pickett experiment is done. So now it's time for the Russell Wilson, Justin Fields experiment, which I think will be just as entertaining.
Oh, for sure. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this 3-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? Other than that, we will see you guys next time.